Okay, let me just verify it's on the page. It should be, not a problem. Let's see here. Yeah, you would just go to, let me see here. It's going to take a second. I get slow. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's on my page. So you can go to my.
All right.
Yeah, you can go to my page. You can go to my page and then share it wherever you want to.
All right. Sorry, my internet's just suddenly going really slowly for some weird reason.
Mine is too, so you might have to go down like 5 posts. It'll be 5 posts down. If it's not at the top of the page, it's about 5 posts down.
Okay, right. Todd, I've located it. I'm going to share this now straight away in the event is happening group.
All right, and I'm going to do the same. And let's see here. Yeah, see, it's still down the page. That's all right. There it is. I found it. All right, so we're going to share this to Soulogy Network. Okay.
Okay, cool. I've checked it.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not in my usual spot here, man. But that's all right. So, yeah, we've got, let's see, what do we got in the house here? Let me make sure we're, oh, there's Amanda Lawrence, our beautiful sister. Yeah, okay, we got 14 now. They're coming in. We'll give it a couple seconds. So, but, you know, we never do anything formally around here anyway. So, for those of you who don't know, my name's Todd Medina. This is Soul Speaks 5D. This is a special edition with our beautiful sister, Jen Mccarty, out of the UK. This is her 3rd time on, and it's always a pleasure having her on. I really admire her work a lot. I admire the group that she started. The event is happening. I don't know what else to say. You know, my other sister, Amanda Lawrence, has met with her in the tour. You know, Jen's work just really speaks for itself. So this is a special edition. Let me just say this to everybody real quick too. We've been shut down pretty much on YouTube and Facebook. If these shows resonate with you, please share and be looking for the world's first 24/7, 365 universal cast in the next week to 10 days. I know we've been talking about it a lot, but we've got to develop our own independent server and stream, multiple channel, eventually available on an app. To get out from under the constructs of the matrix. So we're looking for people like Jen to be a part of that. Nobody owns it. It's just a place where we can all come together and not have any restrictions. So this is a special edition. It has to do with the solstice. And we all know Jen gets some really, really, really pertinent and timely intel. And she shares that with the world. So thank you for coming today. Thank you for honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us, Jen. From the bottom of my heart and everybody else, and thank you for your service to humanity. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, beautiful brother Todd. I hope that the reception's okay, because there's quite a bit of a lag between our comments, but so I hope that it's transmitting clearly for everyone. So I'm really, really honoured to be with you all, and I'm very, very discerning about who I choose to work with and collaborate with, because I know that I am coming from a high frequency and it is very pure, this transmission. So, and I just really want to say that I really deeply respect you, Todd, as my soul brother, and the consistency that you put out to the world with your energetic transmission and the work that you're doing. And so it's really, really rare that I actually sort of collaborate with anyone, and I just want to just put that out there and just really honor you as the divine masculine, for really, really stepping up and being a trailblazer at this time. And it kind of brings me on to what I want to speak about a little bit, because what's been really coming up for me around this solstice energy there's like an SOS that's come out from the sort of like higher self of the collective masculine, and I really feel that the collective masculine is asking for support, extra support at this time. In many ways, I think that the divine feminine has been really accelerating on this ascension path, and we've been really going inward, and we've been facing our demons and facing our shadow and doing all this really deep, sometimes quite gruesome work, you know, and somehow that the divine masculine, on collectively speaking, I'm speaking collectively, not individually, but collectively, it feels like the divine masculine has been sort of more on that superficial level, you know, of not really finding it challenging to really go there to have those sort of pertinent conversations about what's really going on. So and it's just coming up for me all the time at the moment, Todd. It's like it's in the air. There's something in the air. It's like we need to support the divine masculine consciousness. That is what's going on. Because I speak about this in a lot of my work, Todd. I'll just say that you know, I always speak about how actually I feel that, you know, that the masculine has had just as much of a brutal time on the third dimension, if not more than the feminine. Because even though the feminine has been oppressed and with our sexuality and stuff like that, the masculine has been suppressed with their inner self and their feelings and the expression of their emotions. And I'm a mother to a son. And my son, he is as emotional, if not more emotional than a female, you know. It's and so this whole suppression and this control of the masculine, it's just got to stop. And so it's really important that we're having this conversation, Todd, speaking about how men can support each other in this new paradigm of authenticity and soul.
Yeah. I think there is a slight lag, but we're fine. I just want to say this. This is in perfect alignment with what I've been experiencing and what I've been observing. So for you to come out and say this, I think is very important, and it gives me a lot of validation. This has been going on for really hardcore. I want to say 4 or 5 weeks. It's a culmination, and I agree with you. We're talking about a consciousness here. We're talking about a masculine consciousness that abides in each and every one of us, but primarily shows up in what is the physical male incarnation. And they are having a very difficult time. Yes, the feminine energy went deep for a long time. I don't know that masculine energy, and if I use the terms he and she, I really mean the consciousness or the energy, the frequency. And you know what I'm talking about, not necessarily related to the physical incarnation, but it is for the most part. So what I'm saying is that I can look at my own situation, and that's the closest thing to me. So everybody knows I've been in a divine conscious union with Morgan. So there is an aspect as a copy. And what I've noticed is over the last few months, I really had a breakthrough maybe 5 months ago, 4 months ago. And what that had to do was with exactly what you're talking about. And what it was I had to learn to actually accept my emotions, you know, anger, sadness, these things that were suppressed. And I would often call her up and I'd say, hey, you know what? I'm going through something and I'm pissed off. And she'd say, well, do you want to get rid of it? And I'd say, I started to say, no, I don't. I want to sit with it. I feel like I need to sit with it. I need to just feel it. And that was a huge thing for me. And I talked to a couple of young men this last week that had that same frequency. I don't think they had the conditioning that the older men had. But my point is you're right on point. You're right on point. And there is no reason for comparison anymore. But that masculine energy, and I'm seeing this in women and men, needs that support from the feminine side of us. So I'll thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, I totally agree, Todd. And this is going to be something that we're going to be addressing in the ceremony that I'm going to be facilitating on Saturday. And we'll speak more about that as we go into it. But I really feel that we need to kind of like gather in our big groups and get behind this. Do you know what I mean? I think it's so important right now that this is actually dealt with, not just on a one-to-one level, but so we're going to gather a big group of souls together to all set that intention for that shift to occur in the divine masculine collective. And I think, you know, it's something about that divine feminine energy within the masculine rising, which I think you just touched upon that. And I think that has to be the salvation for the masculine, is the realization that they have within them that profound sensitivity and wisdom and intuition, and somehow that can guide and carry you through this journey. Because we have to sort of be focused on solutions, you know, and I think for myself, it's about awakened men stepping up and calling in groups of younger men or all sorts of men to come together to start having this conversation about, like, the old paradigm hasn't worked. Like, men having no physical contact with each other just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for our whole society. Like, we have to find ways to bridge this and to make this bridge so that men can start feeling comfortable, like just hugging each other. And I know this isn't across the board, and I know there are some men that are really comfortable. I have friends that are super comfortable, like hugging. Like, it's certainly not across the board, but I think for the collective masculine, we need to find a new way of how to navigate this.
Yeah, I think that's important. I'm a really big believer. And by the way, thank you for being here. 14 is a big number for me, and this is the 671st show. It's a 14. But one thing I've learned in 671 shows is just that there's a lot to be said for awareness. So
Yeah.
what you're saying carries a lot more weight than we might have thought in the past, because when we talk about something and we acknowledge it, or we hear it from others, like on a show like this or whatever, that is a huge activation. We may not understand it at a conscious level, you know, but at the soul level we hear it. And so it's very important for us to talk about this stuff. And you're so right. You know, Morgan has been here, joined me here in Hawaii about, I think, 10 days ago, and we went several places over a period of 4 or 5 days, and we actually witnessed out in public the wounded masculine acting out very loudly, okay, very loudly. And we also saw the effect in some of the feminine incarnations and the effect of their imbalance within themselves. But this goes really deep. And so it's not always easy for us in this transition to because we're dealing with the human and we're dealing with the higher self. You know, we're dealing with the multidimensional, but the human is the key. The human has to embody whatever it is in order for the full alignment to occur. And I think with the men, with the masculine energy, with this masculine frequency, it is so deep. This covers the uncomfortableness and imbalance and the labels and stigmas and prejudices. And I'm talking about being emotional. I'm talking about homosexuality, bisexuality, sexuality, molestation. I'm talking about all this stuff that's been bound up inside of the man and held tight and protected and covered and shielded. And this is like the core of his release and freedom, which means something prolific in this transition to every single woman and every single man. So again, it is very, very important. I don't think that there's like an owner's manual or somebody that's got a proven modality or process. I think what it takes is a concerted effort like what you're talking about, bringing people together with one intention and one focus. Let's heal this thing. Let's clear this thing. And let's find a way to do it in the spontaneous and the intuitive and creative.
Yeah, I agree, Todd. Well said, brother. I mean, you know, really, there's not so much difference between us, really. I mean, obviously, biologically, but our bodies house our souls, are the vessels that house our souls, you know, and probably last lifetime, I was a man. I could have been anything. Like, it's like, it's, you know, it's just, I don't know what the point I was trying to make was that I think that what needs to happen is that men that sort of have this, I don't know if it's innate or I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but this idea of competitiveness. And I don't know how well competitiveness sits along with spirituality and oneness. I was really meditating on that, and I was like, it doesn't really kind of work and fit with it, because competitiveness somehow seems an antithesis somehow of truth, even though there is benefits of competition, because it can really push us to achieve our highest results. But I think what needs to happen is that the masculine needs to stop being in competition all the time with other men, and instead need to take on the consciousness of just being kind and being in service to other men. This is what I feel, and this is obviously to women as well, but we are specifically talking about the masculine here. So, and I think, I do think that applies to everybody. Like, for me, and my true awakening, it was from that place of kind of sort of waiting for sort of like Archangel Michael to appear out of the fifth dimension and say, oh, I've come to liberate you, Jen, to the realization that it's an active process. Awakening is an active process. It is going against my ego. My ego is constantly wanting to moan. It's constantly wanting to be the victim. It's constantly worries me. No matter how far along you are on your ascension path, that is the narrative of the ego. And so awakening essentially is an active process. And I think for the divine masculine, you just need to wake up and just start being kind, start going out of your way to be in service to your brothers and your sisters, instead of looking at everyone as a competitor. Or do you know what I mean, Todd?
Yeah, I do. I think that this is another great point that you're bringing up. If you look at the conditioning of what we've all been through, the primary vehicle was obviously a falsely empowered masculine energy, which affects all of us one way or the other. Now, one of the main components of that is competitiveness, you know, and a lot of us can relate to this, especially men, but I see it in what we call the light keeper circles. I've seen it in myself. This is shadows I've had to remove in myself. Competitiveness is not the same thing as collaboration. If I look at men and women in the light keeper circles, I see something as simple as this. It's so subtle. These labels that we put on ourselves. I am this, I am that, I am this, or I can do this and I can do that. These are still distinct lines of separation and rooted in competitiveness. Competitiveness is I'm better than you. I'm sorry, that's what it is. That's what it serves. You know what I mean? So it takes a very honest dialogue with ourselves. But again, I commend you for this, because I think once we start talking about it, 90% of the work is done. We have that much pure universal energy supporting us in this transition. It will not allow things that are false to hold up. The only thing that will hold up that's false is what, like you said, is the narrative that's still running in our head. How do we break that? We break that by discussing it and being out in the open, and maybe, for instance, having a workshop on this is a great subject, on competitiveness versus collaboration. I can tell you in the Soulogy network, not because it's me or I'm involved, I'm seeing collaboration. I'm seeing clear evidence of reciprocation from the universal energy for efforts projected from the heart. You know, you go to work in the old way and you'd say, okay, I'm going to punch in my clock. What do I get in return? You don't do that in the 5D plus. You go to work, you put your heart out, and you know that the universe is going to reciprocate. This is a very important part of the transition that will help us to collapse this competitive false matrix principle, you know. So yeah, I think this is, again, right on point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really, really clear. Thank you, Todd, for sharing your clarity, and everything you said really, really resonates with me. And I think it's really important that we start having this conversation, because I was just the other day, I was just thinking about it, and I was like, what is the value of competition? Does competition, does it fit into oneness and 5D consciousness? And I was like, it just doesn't. Like I can't find where it fits. You know, and so I think we have to sort of start realizing that this whole idea of competitiveness needs to belong. It's part of the old 3D matrix, you know, and it's all going, and it's not serving us. It's no longer serving us individually or personally. And I think if any men that are watching this can really just start taking this on board and actually just go out into the world, and instead of feeling in competition to your brothers, like if your brother comes to you and says, oh, I've got a pay rise, you know, I'm now getting X, like, be happy for him, like celebrate him, celebrate his success, celebrate the fact that you are associated with someone that is experiencing that level of success, because it's such a powerful vibration. Like if you put out that vibration of like celebrating your brother or your sister's victory and success, you really, really are becoming a magnet to that experience. But however, if you go into that place of like, you know, feeling jealous and feeling like that something's sort of been taken away from you, that it's diminished something from you, then of course your aura's going to diminish, and then that's going to set you on a whole different timeline. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think, yeah.
No, I was going to say it's a direct influence on separation. You know, we have Morgan and I have kind of chilled out the last 2 or 3 days and just rested, right? So I haven't watched movies in 10 years. And so we've been laying in bed watching movies, and we watched the Lord of the Rings series and The Hobbit. I'd never seen it. I'd never seen this before. And it really invoked a lot of past memories and code and you know, past life memories in me. It really did. And it didn't always make me feel good. But the one thing that really stood out was this aggression, was this competitiveness, was this, these are my toys and my marbles and my land, and you can't have them. I was watching these shows and fascinated by the masterpiece that this guy wrote and was converted to film. But at the same time, I was realizing how deep this stuff has gone into our cellular. And I'm thinking, do I need to even be watching this stuff? You know what I mean? But my point is that this goes extremely deep. So I think it like everything that really creates a breakthrough in the transition, it takes a conscious effort to replace the narrative that's there. That's why it's important to what you speak of. That's why it's important for each one of us to take the responsibility to not to judge other people, not to tell other people what to do, but to state the conscious awareness that we're starting to have collectively, which means that as a woman, you can reach over to someone and say, to a man and say, hey, I know what you've been through. Let's cut the bullshit now. You know, it's no hard feelings, nothing personal. That was your role. This was our role, and vice versa. I think it's a great idea. And I'm going to take this on as we speak. I'm thinking of this. I'm thinking of Miguel Dean, you know, I'm thinking of some other brothers, and I'm thinking, why don't we just have like a little panel and maybe a little seminar and just bring the men in, because it's a grassroots effort like everything in this ascension. It's not a mainstream frequency. It's alt news. It's off the beaten path. And we cannot underestimate the power of our heart's intention, whether there's 10 people watching or 1 million people watching. Energetically, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, I agree, Todd. And I think for all of us that are watching this, I just got a bit of a download that let's just, over this holiday period, let's all just be extra attentive to the men in our lives, be they brothers, uncles, fathers, grandfathers, sons, and just make an effort to connect with them physically, touching, hugging, and just checking in with them emotionally. and like really sort of asking how are you, not just accepting, oh, I'm fine, like really actually engaging. I think if we could all just take that on board, because I was speaking to my son yesterday, and he was just like, Mum, it's just so different for boys and girls. He was like, you know, the girls are like always hugging each other, and they're so tactile with each other. And he's like, yeah, but you know, and he sort of was like, yeah, but you know, I like it the way the boys are. But I was thinking, he's deprived. Like as he turns into a young man, he's stepping into this realm where he's actually going to be deprived of physical touch and you know, I don't want that for my son. But then I just thought, well, that applies to all men. It applies to all men. Do you know what I mean? And so if we can all just take it on board, just to reach out to our brothers, to our dads, to our stepfathers, our uncles this holiday season, and just let them know that we care, because I think so many of the masculine have just kind of built this wall of sort of like isolation, really, because this realm is just so challenging. It's been so challenging for the feminine, and it's been excruciatingly challenging for the masculine. But the feminine at least has been able to talk about it, cry about it, release. We've been allowed, society has allowed us to release and express our emotions, so which makes it marginally slightly easier for us. But the masculines haven't. They've received the opposite conditioning, so it feels like they've built this huge wall. And I think that we as a collective need to take this on board, because behind those walls are the most sensitive, divine creatures. Like really, I speak as a mother of a son. Like I know implicitly, I understand the divine masculine as the mother of a son, you know?
Yeah, this is another good point too, because if you look at what I was saying about awareness, the feminine energy has kept for lack of a better word, has kept the spiritual frequency alive throughout history, because they are the ones that have talked about it. They are the ones that have talked about whatever needed to be talked about. It wasn't always received properly. Maybe it wasn't always expressed properly, but that's not even important. The fact is, that's the frequency we need. Now, you bring up something else, which is extremely important, that I just learned this last week. I just experienced this last week. I had two shows, one with the 21-year-old hippie Ike from Botswana, Africa, and one with Andy Horry from the UK. He's 24 years old. And I had a magnificent show with him. And it made me cry. You know, they both did a little poetry, but it was the frequency. And, you know, Morgan asked me after the show, why were you so moved? A big reason, for the reason that I was so moved, was just to see that frequency of that young sacred masculine arising, coming out, and hearing Hippie Ike tell Andy, that's beautiful, brother. You're a beautiful brother. You know, and what I'm getting at is in regard to your son. I know a little bit about Morgan's son and their relationship. I've got two sons. I think they already have it. They already have the frequency intact. What happens is that they get suppressed by society. But if I look at you, if I look at Morgan, if I look at other situations with the young divine sacred masculine, when they are encouraged, and they are encouraged to expand and be comfortable in their own skin of this divine sacred masculine, that in and of itself is an energetic nuclear bomb that will affect even the most conditioned men out there. And I can say that because I've got a couple of sons that are a little bit older, you know, 22, 23, 24, and I've seen both parts of that in them. I've seen the part that needs to be enhanced or sustained and expanded, and I've seen the effect of the conditioning on them even at a young age. So I think this is a great point, is for not just the feminine, but I think they've led the way. And obviously if they continue to do that, and that is to encourage, to bring out these young men and bring out the expansion of their heart, that is their natural true nature. And I believe that their energy will affect the balance of the older men, and which is where most of that false narrative conditioning and frequency lives, because they're the last ones that want to give it up.
I mean, in a way, you're an older man though, Todd, in a way, and so and you've been willing to give it up. So you've embarked on that hero's journey. So there's no other reason why other men your age, of your generation, cannot embark on that, and they are, aren't they? Embarking on that awakening journey.
Is my hair that gray? But you know, Morgan always says a copy is a copy is a copy. Since I've known her, and what you're saying about me is true. But I can tell you, June 27th of this year, after 7 years, I had to, in the privacy of a communion with me and the universe, surrender to the mother goddess energy. What I was really doing was surrendering to the divine feminine within myself. And the next day I laid in the bed and I could feel both of them. It was Harioscamos, you know, it was divine union within myself at a very great degree. My other point is if you look at Morgan and I energetically, and you look at the masculine and feminine energy of it, that feminine energy leads the way for that masculine. And somebody said it minutes earlier, and that was, and you said it too at the beginning of the show. You said if she provides, that energy provides the nurturing and the unconditional love quotient, because he has to believe, he has to trust that he can say anything, divulge anything that's ever happened to him, anything he's ever done, any secret, any lie, and that he will not be judged and he will not be loved any less. This is where the masculine energy is scared. And I believe, as far as the frequency goes, whether it be literal in the physicality or not, she leads the way, which means in himself, she leads the way. The masculine, I'm sorry, can't do it, can't get started without that feminine frequency. It just can't happen in ourselves or, you know, in the external.
Absolutely. And that was the same with my own spiritual awakening, was really, really born of the Hieros Gamos, the inner alchemical union of my own masculine and feminine energies. And I couldn't have just done it had I not had connected with that polarity energy within my own self. So I think that applies to the masculine and the feminine.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Todd. And I think, you know, it'd be great for you to think about, you know, calling some men's groups together, be they online or be they like via Zoom or something like that, and share your map, like how you got there. Do you know what I mean? And what you did. I think it would be really, really valuable. And you know, because you are a way shower, particularly for the men. So I just really encourage you to step up with that, and I'll support you in whatever way I can through sharing and, you know, letting people know. So yeah, that's really, really great. So I think this definitely is the theme at the moment, and I think what we're noticing is shifts going on. And I think she said that. Morgan said, I've observed the masculine going through a huge upgrade in the last couple of weeks. And I think that's why we're talking about this, is because, like, you know, it's like we're at breakdown point, breakthrough point, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, we can't carry on in the way it has done. And so it feels like all, you know, it is breaking down. All that was not in alignment with the high frequencies are breaking down. So yeah, let's just hold that vision and be extra attentive to our sons and our brothers, and be extra affectionate to them, because they're not getting as much affection as what they need. You know, even the way men hug each other with this whole thing of, like, with their arm and they're crossing their hearts, so you're not really getting like that full heart to heart, like, soul nourishment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's you know, you see it in the younger men. You know, especially here in the States with the handshakes and the hug, you know, it's a little warmer, but it's just so deep. It's so deep. And that's why I think it really stems from almost like a territorial thing, almost like a weakness thing. And so I think that, you know, what you were saying about competition is extremely important. I just want to reiterate it, because I got this as we were talking. It goes down to the labels. It goes down to the attachment that we have about ourselves which you know, if you look at arrogance, what's the flip side of arrogance, or really is synonymous with arrogance, is insecurity. You know, so these men, or this masculine energy, get stuck on, I'm the president of this company, or I'm channeling Jesus, or I was this in a past life, or all of that stuff, or I have this capability. All of that stuff in my mind is just a line of distinction, a line of separation that's rooted in this competitive thing that you brought up. And it goes very, very deep. And I really believe that labels are a big part of that, and stories, you know, and I'm just realizing right now, you know, in retrospect, how deep that's gone with the man. So, you know, I think this is a fantastic show, one of the best one we've done in a while. Now, I wanted to ask you, what are you focusing on tomorrow on your meditation, on your group meditation?
Okay, so it's really interesting what I've been guided to focus on. So we're going to be focusing a lot on giving support to the masculine and assisting the collective masculine to remove these kind of like, well, to clear these old timelines, you know, these old 3D timelines that are no longer serving the evolution of where we're actually going. So we're going to be doing a lot of work with supporting the divine masculine as a collective. We're also being guided to work with the blue rays. A lot of the people that are drawn to my work are blue ray twin flames. And so Spirit told me that we're going to be working with the Arcturian healing chamber. And the Arcturian healing chamber is able to like recorrect any imbalances, and that can be in any organs, but particularly that will be within the chakras. So if there's any sort of like stagnant energy in the chakras, it's all about recorrection. So we're going to be working, it's going to be predominantly with the Arcturians, but actually we're going to be working with the Pleiades as well. It's going to be a very much a galactic transmission where we're going to be working with our galactic brothers and sisters. So this is going to be a huge upgrade, and it's going to be like an MOT, like your car getting serviced, like your vessel's going to get really, really serviced. And I think the reason why they're wanting to do this is to assist with the clearing out of the density of 2018. Because 2018, although it's been a very, very powerful year for all of us on the ascension path, there's been so many planets in retrograde that it's all been about revisiting, going back over. And what we've done is we've sort of accumulated a lot of old energy. And so we're going to be using the energy of the solstice transmission to clear all that retrograde energy. Because actually, as we move into 2019, I don't think, as far as I can work out, we don't really have any planets that are going retrograde. So it's going to be a very much a moving forward year. And so really the work that we're being called to do is about preparing our vessels to be able to hold these new frequencies, these high frequencies. A lot of people that are attracted to my work will be coming into their physical unions, their physicalized unions in 2019. And as you yourself know, Todd, this is no mean feat to get your vessel to the level of adjustment and attunement to be able to hold that frequency of divine love is we really, really all need support with that. And so we're going to be specifically working on giving our physical vessel support so that we can move into 2019 really, really in a good space and able to move forward. So we're going to be doing a lot of work with the Blue Rays and the Arcturians, but also what we're going to be doing, we're going to be actually working with the higher self of all of the police and the military in the world. So what's going on in France at the moment is so inspiring, because like what's going on at the moment is that the police are wanting to sort of take off their helmets and join the protesters, and really it's like the only logical way we can go, really, you know, because we're in a tyranny. Like the current political system has become tyrannical, and so we have to overthrow the system. Has to be overthrown somehow. But if we've got so we're going to be working with the higher self of the police and the military, so we're just going to be giving them that boost, so that they can just put down their helmets and actually serve sovereignty, protecting our sovereignty and protecting their sovereignty, you know. So so that it's going to be really, really powerful, Todd.
What time is that at?
So basically, it's on the. I was guided to do it on the 22nd on Saturday, and it's going to be at 4:44 p.m. UK time. And the reason why I'm doing it on the Saturday is because that is the exact time of the full moon, you see. So we're working, and I just did a bit of research, and I found out that that was the most potent time within this whole sort of 3-day solstice window for us to gather. And also, I just want to say one thing, Todd, is that we know that the powers that were, call them the cabal, call them whatever you want, they would use dates such as this, such as the solstice, for their own agenda. And so I feel it is so extremely important for the light tribe, for the light workers, to gather in your soul groups, whether that's with me, whether that's with you, whether that's with Lisa, whether that's with Meg, whether that's on the land, whether that's at sacred sites. It's just like everyone needs to come together on dates like this, you know, because that there will be other energies that are wanting to control the agenda of that day and the narrative of that day. So, but if we can gather in our numbers with our potency and our frequency, then we can really, really counterbalance anything that's going on with them, but also plant these amazing seeds for 2019.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I totally agree. And the other thing that I want to point out too, you talked about the retrograde and all the clearing we've done, and I think there's a pretty good argument that the last half of the year, the masculine energy has been clearing, a lot of lower chakra energy clearing, but remember, the masculine is the doer, the masculine energy is the creator, and I hadn't heard there wasn't any planetary retrogrades this year, and I don't know if there is or there isn't. But what I do know is that the next step for us is materialization, is the magic, is the miracle. You know, it is the manifestation. And in order for that to happen at a level that the world hasn't seen in our memory banks, and that will happen, is through the absolute liberation and sovereignty expression of this masculine energy, this creator energy, doer energy in all of us. So it's very important that we keep the ball rolling, and we also not to underestimate the power of intention, especially with the type of group, the group meditation that you're talking about. Even if it's one person, I think it's a great idea. The military, the police. I mean, to send the intention that direction. We're all talking about consciousness, and consciousness grows by focus into it, you know, by belief into it, which is how the false programming worked. But the flip side of it, this is how the incredible, maybe radical to the human change takes place. But I have great hopes for 2019. I do believe it's rooted in collaboration, and I do believe that the last key to this thing, the last domino to this thing, is the liberation of the masculine energy in all of us. And that brings this thing full circle to the holy triad, the feminine, the masculine, and the universe in the other corner with the golden child energy.
That's right, Todd. That's beautiful. Well said, brother. Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree. And so if we can just get this message out to all the listeners, like, just gather on the solstice is such an important time for us all to gather and to set these intentions into the grid. You know, we're going to be getting so much support. And I think we just spend a moment just talking about what's actually going on with the current energies. So I'm really feeling like loads of light, influxes of light, incoming ascension waves are coming in quite thick and fast at the moment. And I'm certainly noticing that in my groups, a lot of people are having full-on symptoms. I've been also having quite full-on symptoms as well. And this has been affecting my stomach quite a lot. And it's just out of the blue. It's like I haven't eaten anything dodgy, but I'll just like suddenly get like a cramp, and it's to do with the energies, like that my body is trying to assimilate the you know, it's trying to adjust to those high frequencies. But yeah, no, this is definitely going on, and I think that, like, obviously, to anyone that's having symptoms, you know, if you think you need to get them checked out, I always recommend that, like, have blood tests and get things checked out if things are really, really worrying you. But for a lot of us, what is going on is ascension symptoms. And so the best way for us to navigate these symptoms is to really bring it back to the basics of making sure that we're really, really hydrated. So important at times like this that we maintain a high level of hydration. And that also that we don't force our body to do stuff. Like, if we need to rest or we need to do yoga, it's really, really important at times like this that we listen deeply to our body, you know. And I think it's really a time, the energy is pulling a lot of us inward, and that's to, you know, self-inquiry, journaling, being with ourselves. And I think that just to sort of reiterate that if that's what you're feeling, like, really, really honor and respect your body, and just take care of yourself, because this is such an intense sort of like influx of energy that's coming in. It really is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know of a few women, particularly, which doesn't surprise me, that the physical, the physical characteristics have popped up in the last few days, in the lower chakras. And it doesn't surprise me that it's the feminine, because again, that frequency is what's led the way. It only makes sense. But yeah, I do agree with you. I'm not the best light keeper when it comes to personal habits, but one thing I do know for sure is the hydration is so important, because I know a lot of people can identify with this and relate to this. I've woken up so many times in the morning, my hair's dry, my face is dry, my lips are dry, my body's dehydrated. I could have drank a bunch of water before I went to bed. We're doing a lot of work in dream state. We're doing a lot of work, a lot of processing, and yeah, I think it's very important to do that. It's very important to listen to our body. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely. And if you can walk bare feet on the earth, that's such a powerful practice as well. I highly recommend that. It's a little bit cold in England for doing that, but in Hawaii, I would definitely be mainly just walking around bare feet and just.
Well, I came to the island with boots on. That's all I ever wore was boots.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah, it's absolutely. It's huge. The water's huge. Listening to the body's huge, and yeah, this is a great conversation. I'm glad we had it today. And if you want,
me too.
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I thought you said. I feel like I've said everything that I wanted to say. Really.
Yeah.
I think it was quite potent. It was short and fast. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just really, really looking forward to gather with everyone on Saturday, and I'll post the link to anyone that feels the urge to, you know, to be part of this ceremony. And all the work that I do, this particular work is offered on an energetic exchange basis, because it's a ceremony. It's like you have to commit. It's not something that you just kind of like stumble upon a life-changing ceremony. It's actually, you have to show up and actually be prepared and be dressed and have your altar. So there is a signing up process. So I'll post the link for your listeners, and I don't know if this will get posted in the event page, but I'm going to check that. But it's been such an honor to speak to you, Todd.
Yeah, and it's been an honor to collaborate with you again. And if you want to collaborate in the future, just hit me up as you did this time. It was all in perfect synchronicity. And please put it in the comments, and then I'll put it through the Soulogy network, and we'll see if we can get some people over there for you. Okay?
Thank you so much, brother, and have a beautiful day in Hawaii.
I will. Thank you. See you later. See you later.
Bye.
Namaste. Bye-bye.